This week's parsha, Parashat Nitzavim. Okay, Parashat Nitzavim. We're gonna, as usual, we wanna have an idea that's in the parsha, and then we're gonna try also to connect it to Rosh Hashanah, Haba Aleinu Le'Tova. So if you go to this week's parsha, Parashat Nitzavim, very, very short parsha. Sometimes we get Nitzavim and Vayelech together. This year we have just Nitzavim, and the Torah tells you like this. And it's also a famous song by Avram Fried, for those of you who like Jewish music. Ki mitzvah azot, this mitzvah. Asher anochi mitzavcha hayom. Lo nifleisi mimcha v'lo yirechaika hi. Guys know what I'm talking about? Know that again? That's the thing. The mitzvah is not, right? It's not for, lo nifleis, Rashi says it's not covered. V'lo rechokai, and it's not far away. Lo b'shamayim, right? And it's not in the heavens. Lomar mi alenu v'lo me'ever hayam. Rather, ki karov eilecha hadavar me'od beficha ulevavcha lasos. Now this is also an 8-time catch. Very famous song. Ki kaharai veilecha. Fine. A lot of songs from these psukim. but like this. Ki karov eilecha hadavar me'od. So what's this mitzvah? What it says, right? We're starting. The Torah tells us. This mitzvah, right? That I'm commanding you. It's not far away. Rather, ki karov eilecha. It's close to you. Right? Hadavar me'od. It's so close to you. Karov eilecha hadavar me'od. Beficha, it's in your mouth and it's in your heart, lasoto, to do, right? So what is this mitzvah? So one explanation that the Mefarshim say, it means it's referring to the whole Torah. The Ramban and other commentators say that it's referring to the mitzvah that we just discussed beforehand, which is the mitzvah of tshuva. What mitzvah is close? The mitzvah of tshuva. Meaning it seems to say that the mitzvah of tshuva is something that's easy. You don't need to travel far away. It's not going to take, you don't need to sit in traffic. You don't need to go, there's no airport, there's no lines. You don't need to get there delays. It's very close, it's very easy. It's something that seems to be very easy. Now, you ask your average person, is tshuva something that's easy? I think not just your average person, every person is going to tell you that tshuva is what? One of the hardest things to do. Go fix yourself, right? Rav Yisrael Salanter, the big Bal Musar, he says it's easier for me to finish all a shas then to change one bad midah. He says, why? Because when you change one bad midah, you need to look internally and you need to say, I need to fix, I need to change something. There's something about me that is wrong, that is broken, right? And we don't like to admit that we're broken. We don't like to admit, we like to live in la la land, that everything about us is perfect, right? Ask your spouse if you're perfect, right? He'll tell you that, but we like to have that imagination. So it's a lot easier to lock yourself in a room and finish all the shas than to do what? Than to actually look inside and say, okay, I need a fix. I need to change who I am at my course. The question that all the commentaries ask is, how could the Torah tell you that the mitzvah of tshuva is karav elecha? It's so close. It's easy. You don't need to travel. It's an easy thing. It's like the hardest thing to do, literally, right? Really admitting that you're wrong at something is one of the hardest things that human beings in our nature can do. So that's question number one that I'd like to ask you. Question number two is I want to go to the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur davening. Specifically, one of the most famous parts of the Rosh Hashanah and Kippur davening, and that is the tefillah of Netaneh Tokef. Now, if you have an art scroll machzor, and the chazan in your shul sings Netaneh Tokef very long, and you didn't really connect to the niggin that he's singing, you probably looked underneath and read a little bit about Netaneh Tokef that's on the bottom. What does it say in the majority of machzorim, including the art scroll machzor? It tells you the story behind the Netaneh Tokef. Now, if you've never heard this story, if you've never read it because you love music and you always love the chazan and the chazan is the best, so then I'll tell it to you for the first time. But if you haven't, so then if you've read the bottom, you'll know, but I'll elaborate a little more. The story, it's mamish, it's an incredible story, how Netaneh Tokef even made it to our machzorim. And it dates back to the times of the Bali Atosos, to the 1100s. To 1100s, there was a yid known as Rav Amnon from Megenza. Rav Amnon from Megenza was a big Rav in the city of Megenza. And the priest of Megenza at that time was 1100s. It was when the Crusades were they were forcing conversion upon the Jewish people. And he goes to Rav Amnon in Megenza and he tells them, he says, I need you. He says, I'm forcing you to convert. And if you don't convert, what am I going to do? I'm going to kill you. So that was, and he wanted to make an example of the rabbi of the community. So Rav Amnon turns to the priest and he tells him, I hear you. Give me 3 days to think about it, and I'll get back to you in 3 days. The priest was like, well, sure, I'll give you 3 days, and he walks out. The moment he walks out the door, Rav Amnon Megetza says, what did I just do? I gave the priest 3 days. What, I'm sugar? Like I gave him the feeling that I'm actually contemplating it. It's like, how could I even give off the impression that I'm thinking for a second that I'm going to convert? And he started like fasting and asking for tshuva. And then when day 3 came up, so the messengers, he was supposed to go and he didn't show up. So the messengers of the priest come to his house and he says, I'm not going. And they schlep him to the priest. And when he gets to the priest, he tells him, he says, the tongue that said that I'm going to give you 3 days and I'm going to think about it, I want you to chop off my tongue as punishment that I even thought to say such a thing. So the vicious and cruel bishop had different plans. And he decided, I'm not going to keep your tongue. He says, but the legs that you decided not to come to me when I told you to come, I'm going to chop off your legs. He chopped off his legs. He tortured him, chopped off his fingers, and he poured salt on it. And Imam was like vicious, like real anti-Semitic, like back in the day, what they've done to Jews. And then he sent them back to his city, and everyone saw him without legs, with salt on his wounds, like mamish, crazy in pain. And a few days later, 3 days later was Rosh Hashanah, and they schlep him into shul with half whatever. And when they get to Kedusha, so he stops and he says, I want to be Mekadei Shem Shamayim Barabim. That's what Rav Amnon says. He wheels him up to the Chazan, and he stops and he says, I'm going to say, and he says the tefillah of Netaneh Tokef, Kedushas Ayom, Kiyun Nora Ve'ayom, Malachim Mechafezun, Chilu Rada Yochezun, right? The angels are shaking and they're quaking, Mi Yechia, Mi Yamos, Mi Bekitzo, Mi Lo Bekitzo, right? All the Utshuva, Utefillah, Utzedakah, he rang that out, right? Ki Shemcha Me'olam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're one. It's all about Achdas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that everyone in this world is changing and coming and going, but you, Ki Atau Chai V'Kayim, right? You master of the world, there's only one of you and only one of you exists. And as he finished Netaneh Tokef, he passed away. That's the story. And then the Rav of the Rav in the community there, Rav Klonimis ben Meshulam, that was his name. A few days after Rosh Hashanah, Rav Amnon came to him in a dream and gave him the exact nusach of Netaneh Tokef. And he told him, he said, spread this to all of Am Yisrael. And that's how Netaneh Tokef made it into your Machzorim. And since it was in the 1100s, and that's when Mama spread all across the world. That's the tefillah of Netaneh Tokef and the origin of the tefillah itself, which is a fascinating thing. So when you're in shul and you're reading the words, it's not just these words. There's a reason why they stir up so much within us. A, because the meaning of the words, but B, how the words actually came about. Now I want to focus on one line in Netaneh Tokef. And again, we're going to connect it all to the parsha. So the one line in Netaneh Tokef, it's actually based on a Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, where he says like this, V'chol ba'ei olam ovrim lefanecha kivnei maron, which means what? The whole world passes by you like bnei maron. What do you say? Like sheep. Okay, so how do you know it's sheep? Because the next words are kivakarat ro'eh etzro mavir tzono tachat shifta, right? Meaning the way Rav Amnon of Megenza is learning kivnei maron is that it means like sheep. What does it mean like sheep? Let's elaborate on what you're saying. And that is as follows. When you have, let's say you're blessed, you have 1,000 sheep that gave birth. They gave birth this year. You don't know how many sheep, but you had a lot of baby sheep. So the halacha is that you need to give meiser behema. You need to give a tenth of your animals to the kohanim. So what do? You have them all in your coop or whatever it is, and now it's time to feed them. So you make a small opening, right? You make a small opening in the gate for them to thing, and you have a brush. And you count 1, 2, 3 as they're coming out to eat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You paint them. That one's going to go to the Kohen, right? And then the next one, 1, 2, 3. So when the sheep are coming out, how are they coming out? One at a time. So the Mishnah, which says v'chol b'nei olam, chol b'nei olam, the whole world, ovrim lefanecha kivnei maron, they go like sheep. What does that mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you judge every individual for who he is, right? Meaning it's not that God sits up and says, okay, there's 1,000 sheep here. We'll give an overall judgment on all of them. It's every single person is being judged for who he is. That, though, if you open up the Gemara, that's one explanation of the Gemara. There's two other explanations in the Gemaras of what the words kivnei maron mean, right? The next opinion is Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish in the Gemara says, you know what kivnei maron mean? It doesn't mean sheep that go out. It means something else. It means a city, it could be even Meron, that's sitting on the top of the mountain. And when you want to ascend the mountain, because the road up the mountain is so narrow, what do? You need to walk in a single file line, because if you have two people next to one another, one chas v'shalom could fall. So how do people ascend this mountain? They only ascend it one at a time. They go up one at a time. That's what it means kivnei maron, meaning it's the same idea that God is judging every single individual. But the example that it gives doesn't mean sheep, rather means people going up a mountain in a very narrow path. That's explanation number 2. Says the Gemara, just because we're Jews and we like to argue. No, that's not what it means. I have another explanation. You're right, it means one at a time. But it doesn't mean sheep, and it also doesn't mean going up a mountain. Rather, what does it mean? Kechayalot shel Bet David, the soldiers of David HaMelech. Right? You ever see soldiers line up in a line in a parade? Perfect line, duru, right? lining, soldiers, perfect. Everything's perfect, and that's how they're marching up. And you see them one at a time. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the whole world, he judges them like soldiers in a line, where he judges every single person, that you see every single person in each line. Now, I know Jews like to argue. This is what we do. We wake up, right? They say that when Jew says Shalom Aleichem, what is the answer back? Aleichem Shalom. Why? Because he can't agree with you. You can't say Shalom Aleichem back. He has to say the opposite. Whatever you say, he automatically has to say the opposite. Start. We already got over with arguing. Now we can have a regular discussion. So I understand over here the Gemara is having the point of the Mishnah is telling us that because Baruch Hu judges every single person. But what in the world is going on? We're just arguing for the sake of arguing. These are Amoraim. These aren't Stam Jews that need to argue about nothing because they're looking for things to argue about. Right? There's something very deep over here. Question number 2, what is the dispute in the Gemara? How do you understand? We're trying to understand a few lines in the Gemara. What is the dispute in the Gemara? How do we understand it better that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging each person like sheep in a straight line, right? Like the sheep that's each person, or it's like going up a mountain, or it's like the soldiers of Beis David. We got it. At the end of the day, what's the point? The point is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges every single person as he is. These are the 2 questions. Good? Very simple. Let's review. Chazara. Okay? Question number 1. Remember this week's parsha. Ki karov elacha adavar me'od beficha. It's close. Tshuva. It's close. It's easy. It's amazing. You don't need to travel. It's right. It's in your backyard. You don't need to do anything. Right? Really? No, it's not. Tshuva is the hardest thing to do. How could the Torah say it's easy and it's close? Question number 1. Question number 2 is that this one is not a Tokef, which is based on this Mishnah, that the whole world is judged kivnei maron, right? And we saw 3 explanations that basically teach me the same thing. What's the same thing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges each individual, either like sheep, like soldiers, or like people going up the mountain. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. Why do we need 3 different explanations? Seda? Amazing. Let's start, para, one at a time. We'll answer the first question, then we'll answer the second question, and hopefully when we come out, you'll feel like, wow, amazing. This was worth it to show up today. Okay? So it was, that's the idea here. So to answer this question, I want to learn another Gemara with you, which is a story. It's a pretty famous Gemara. And the Gemara is like this, right? It's the Gemara of Yesh Koneh Alama B'Sha'achas. What's the story? There was a Jew. His name was Elazar ben Dudai. Elazar ben Dudai was like the most materialistic individual, I guess we can say. The Gemara describes him as an individual who, wherever there was a prostitute, he was the first one to line up. And that's what he did. He wanted to hit up every single club and brothel in the whole world. Now there was one prostitute that just came on the market, whatever, she was like the most expensive. He gathered a lot of money and he traveled to go all the way to this lady. And when he gets there was something that happened, and he tells her, and she says, you're a lost case. Like she realized how far he traveled just to be with her, and he says, you're a lost case. He says, you're a Jew. He says, you're never doing tshuva. And that like shook him. Like he's getting musar. When his Rebbe and his parents gave him musar, he's used to that. But for the prostitute to give him musar, that was like a new low. That's like, now I have a musher shmooze from the prostitute. So that shook him to his core, and he left, and he stopped. He pulled out, and he ran away, and he sat, the Gemara says he sat by himself, okay? And he put his head in between his feet, and he started crying. And then he says, mountains, arim v'gvot. He says, mountains, please beg forgiveness for me, because I can't do it myself, right? So beg forgiveness for me. So the mountains told him, we have our own things we need to take care of, right? We can't do for me. So he says, fine, shamayim v'aretz, heaven and earth, you ask for forgiveness for me. Yatza baskol, a heavenly voice came out. No, we need to take care of our own business. We can't ask for forgiveness for you. Yareach shemesh v'yareach, the sun and the moon. Maybe you can ask Mechila. He says, we have our own tzaras. We fought already on day 4 of creation. We still need to do tshuva for that. We cannot do tshuva for you. So he says mazalot, like the constellations, the luck, the stars. You ask Mechila. He says, I'm sorry, we can't ask Mechila for you. What did he do? He says, he saw ena davar talui ela bi. Right? He says, it's up to me. And he put his head between his feet and he started crying. Until he passed away. And a baskol came out, a heavenly voice that came out and said, Rebbe. Okay? Called him now Rav. This guy went from the biggest prostitute running after prostitutes to Rebbe. Rav Elazar ben Dudai, Muzman Chaya Olam Haba. He's welcome to come to Olam Haba. Why? Because what did he teach us? He taught us, Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'achat. There's a person who can even get Olam Haba at the last second of his life, which means every second of your life is so precious. So the Mefarshim, a lot of the commentators try to understand, like, what's going on over here? He's asking for the stars, for the heaven. They should ask for forgiveness. Like, really? Like the sun is going to ask for, like, of course, what's going on? So the Mefarshim explain here that this is like the yesod of tshuva is in this thing, right? And it goes back to what we mentioned before. When it comes to changing a midah, right? Changing a bad trait that you have, actually doing tshuva, like really looking, it's the most difficult thing in the world to do. It's easier to finish Shas than to change a midah. So what do we do naturally? How do you live with yourself? You have a bad midah. I have bad midah. How do I live with myself? How do I live with myself knowing that I have this bad midah? You know what you do? We put blame on everyone else except for you. And this is exactly what he did. He had a bad thing. So he said, you know what? Harim v'gvaot. He says, Harim, explain the Mefarshim, it refers to parents, right? It says, Esa esainai el harim, al tikri harim ela horim. He says, you know why I sinned? You know why I ended up such a low life, running after this brothel to another brothel? You know why? My parents, they never loved me. They never showed me support. I was brought up alone. And that, I'm blaming everything on other people. That's why I ended up the way that I am. So the Baskol comes out and he says, you're right. Maybe your parents abandoned you. But at the end of the day, don't blame us. You're you. Right? Don't have this victim mentality. You're right. Something happened. Right? But at the end of the day, who can change it? Only you, Nama. So he says, okay, my parents, I can't blame my parents. Shamayim v'aretz. What does Shamayim represent? Shamayim is like the heavens, like the spiritual. And Aretz is the physicality. So what's he blaming now? The reason why I ended up like this, a low life, is because I never had a good shamayim. I didn't have a good Rebbe. My Rebbe in yeshiva, he yelled at me, he hit me, he made fun of me, I never did well, I had ADD, I wasn't able to focus. That's why I ended up the way I was, right? Other things that people blame. You know why I ended up this way? You know why I act in a certain way? You know why I look a certain way? You know why? Because Aretz means the earth around me, all the people that are around me. Look at the surrounding, look at what I'm in, look what I have in my pocket. I have a phone that I can look at everything in the world. You want me to dress normal, you want me to look normal, you want me to speak normally, you want me to speak nice, I can't. There's so much peer pressure from the whole world around me that I can't. So who are you blaming it on? Everyone else. Because again, it's a lot easier to blame other people than to take full responsibility. So you're saying, the reason why I ended up this way, because I didn't have good rabbeim, or because I live in such a materialistic world that I can't make anything out. I can't do, it's gone from day one, okay? And they say, no, don't blame us. At the end of the day, you're the one that's responsible. So then he says, it's the sun and the moon. What's sun? Sun represents consistency. Every day, sun goes up, sun goes down, right? It's always exactly the same. The sun is also constant. It stays where it is. Meaning, the reason why I sinned, because I was bored. I had nothing exciting in my life. Nothing changed. The moon represents exactly the opposite. The moon every day is what? Is something else. Why did I sin? Because I never had menuchas hanefesh. I never had peace and serenity. Everything was always changing in my life. Every minute I was moving, I was coming, I'm going. Again, these are all projections and saying that I'm not responsible either because everything was too constant, because everything was changing too quickly, or it's my parents, or it's my Rebbe, or it's my surroundings. And the last thing was mazalot, which is my bad luck. I got put in the wrong situation. I got my friends around me were a bad influence, or whatever it was. I got stuck, I had a flat tire in the wrong place, and that's what caused me to sin. So in other words, what Rabbi Elazar ben Drudai is teaching us is that when a person wants to do tshuva, right, the first blockage, the first impediment that's going to prevent you from doing tshuva is what we do our entire life in order to be able to live with ourselves. And that is what? Blame everyone around us except for us. Until he stops and he realizes, Ena davar talui ela bi. You need to make a flight. Okay, you need to make a flight. Okay? You got a flat tire and you missed the flight. So you're right, you're an onus. It wasn't your fault. But did you make it on the flight? You missed the flight. But it wasn't your fault. Okay, it wasn't your fault. But at the end of the day, what happened? Did you get the desired outcome? You didn't. You're stuck. Right? So yeah, maybe you can blame your parents. And you can blame, and maybe you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. And maybe it was your Rebbe, and maybe it was your surroundings, and maybe it was, and these are all real things to put blame on. But at the end of the day, you're going to miss the flight. Right? Or you can say, I'm going to change that. I think something that's so unique about Am Yisrael is that if you look post-World War II, right, what did the people who made it out of the Holocaust, what did they call themselves? They were called Holocaust survivors. Today, when you look at people who go through tragedies, what are they called? Victims. You never hear a survivor say, I'm a victim of the Holocaust. Why? Because victim of the Holocaust is basically saying, I'm blaming someone else, and that's it, I'm giving up. A survivor, you know what a survivor means? I survived hell. And you know what that means now? That means that for sure I'm going to be able to continue and grow and produce and do much better. What Rabbi Elazar ben Dudai taught us is that the first step to tshuva, the first step to any change in your life, is stop blaming your surroundings, even if it is your surroundings, even if you're justified. Because at the end of the day, the change is only going to happen if you look inside and say, I'm going to be the one who changes it. And that's what it means in the pasuk. Ki karov elecha davar. It doesn't mean that it's easy. What does it mean? Karov is like a relative. It's related to you. It's close to you. What do you mean it's close to you? It's you. You're the only one who can change it, right? The pasuk is like Ki karov elecha hadavar me'od, right? It is close to you very much. Beficha, you have to do vidui, ubilvavcha. You have to have real internal check. You have to think about, am I actually, how could I change? If you want to do tshuva, stop blaming the world, right? This pasuk teaches you the first step to tshuva. The first step is take responsibility, even if you could blame everyone else. It's karov elecha adavar me'od. Can't say it even clear. So many extra words just to show that you're responsible. And you can, now, it's scary, but it's also what? Empowering. Everything that's scary is empowering, right? It's scary because at the end of the day, all your shortcomings are your fault. But it's also very empowering because you're not destined to stay where you are. No matter the age, no matter where you are, your surroundings, no matter everything, you're always able to change. So if you haven't gone to minyan for who knows how long, now you can go to minyan. If you haven't been doing proper mitzvahs, you can now do proper mitzvahs. If you've been looking at things inappropriate, you can stop. If you can, whatever it is that a person is doing, you have the power to stop as long as you do what? Take responsibility and say, okay, taka, I'm going to stop. But now let's go to the second Gemara. Okay, now let's go to our second question. So step number one of tshuva is it's you. You are responsible. The change is only going to happen with you. Now, let's go to the second Gemara, the second question that we asked, and that is, why do we have this like strange argument in the Gemara that God on the day of judgment, he's judging you, right? But he's judging you one by one. He's judging each person. And let me give you three examples. Either you're like sheep, or that pass by one another, or you're going up a mountain, which is one at a time, or you're like soldiers that are walking one in a line, and that's what it means that that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging one at a time. What's the deeper understanding of here? So what's an amazing idea, and it's based on the Maharsha that's there. It says when you have a pen, right, with sheep, and the pen is filled with hundreds of sheep, and now you announce that you start moving the gates. If you've ever been to like a farm, you start moving the gates. The animals know already. If he's moving the gates, what happens? It's going to open. So what do all the sheep do? Right away, they hear the gates moving. They see somebody will even see you approaching. What's going to happen? Everyone starts dashing, and they know already that's where the opening is going to be. It's going to be in that certain area. So which sheep makes it to the door first? Which is the sheep that is able to push his way to the door first, the first one out? Usually, if you've seen, probably see this on YouTube. Usually, if you see, it's usually the biggest ones. Right, the ones that are the strongest and the fiercest ones, they'll push first to get to the gate. And then when you open the gate, which are the ones that come out first? It's usually the biggest ones. So the sheep that you're counting one at a time, what does that represent? Now, who made the sheep strong? Did the sheep go to the gym? Was he like pushing weights? This one, like was that's what made him strong? No. The sheep got his strength. It was his genes, right? It's his genetics that is what made him strong and what got him to the front of the line. So the sheep coming out first represents God-given traits, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges every single person in the world individually based on the God-given traits that he gave you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you strength. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you good looks. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made you smart. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made you wealthy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made you sensitive, made you a people. How did you use all of these gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you? Meaning, when the Mefarshim are arguing, one is saying that it was sheep. One was saying that it was soldiers. One was saying that it was going up a mountain. They're all agreeing. They're all agreeing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges each one. They're each saying that the level of judgment is so deep that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in great detail, judges every person. So the first explanation is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges you like you are sheep. What does that mean, like you're sheep? He judges your God-given skills and traits that he gives you. Like we mentioned before, your smartness, your good looks. What have you done with the God-given traits that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you? You know, there was a famous story. I actually got to meet him. His name was Eliasaf Miara. Eliasaf Miara. Have you ever been down south? So you see the Miguniot, right? So after Gush Katif, when they pulled out in 2005 and they started shooting, missiles every so often, tiftuf, they used to call it. Do you remember that? Crazy, right? It's drizzling missiles, right? It's called tiftuf. So what are we doing? So since it was drizzling missiles, so we had to build umbrellas, right? So what did we build? We built miguniot. Miguniot are these these safe boxes that are made out of cement that if missiles start coming in, people can hide inside. Now, the biggest eyesore to planet Earth, right? It was just like a cement block. So there was one individual who was an artist. His name is Elisaf Miara. Well, he decided on his yeshuva, at least, which was near Otef Aza, he says, let me paint it. So he started painting, and it was gorgeous. Right? His mom was like the most beautiful paintings, right? And then the Muatzah in the area saw how beautiful it was. So they hired him. And they said, do you mind painting all the different Miguniot areas? Yeah. So he spent a few years going from one to one to one and painting it. Now, why is this an important fact? It's a very important fact, because on October 7th, when the terrorists, Yimach Shemam, came in and started killing everyone and destroying everything, so people ran to different Miguniot. They were coming from the Nova, they were coming from Kibbutzim. They didn't know where they were. They ran to Migunit, and then they called the police, or they calling Atzala. So they would ask him, where are you? I have no idea. I just ran for 20 minutes, and now I'm in a Migunit. I have no idea where, right? And these guys are from Tel Aviv. You think I know? I put it into Waze, and I got to the final destination. Now I'm running for my life. So he said, what's on the Migunit? He says, I'm in a Migunit. This has a flower, right? So the police are like, we don't know where it is. They found out on October 7th who's the one who painted all the Miguniot. They called Eliasaf Miara, and they said, where is the one with the flower? We know that there's 15 people that are there. Oh, the one with the flower? I remember that one. That's on Kvish this, and they go there. Oh, and then they get a phone call 10 minutes later from a different Migunit that has a different painting. And they call him up and say, where's this one without painting? Right? So he says, oh, that one's on this Kvish. That one's over there. So he was given a gift to be an artist. Right? What did he do with his gift? First, he decided, Eretz Yisrael, you have to make it look beautiful. So I'm not going to have these bundles of just gross cement. I'm going to take the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me, and I'm going to use it to help everyone, every single person who walks by. It's going to be beautiful. And then not only that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed him that your gift is so unique and it's so special that only you are going to be able to use your gift to save lives, right? If on that day, on October 7th, you give the phone to the head of the Shabak, to the Prime Minister, to whoever it is, right? You have 15 people, they wouldn't be able to help you. The only person in the world at that moment that was able to send forces to the right place was who? This individual who painted the Migunit, right? That's what it means. You're judged based on being a sheep, meaning your God-given talents that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you, the strength that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you, that gave that sheep the strength to come out. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how did he use your kochos? Did he use your kochos k'moshe tzarich or not? So maybe not. And this year you can say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to do better. I'm going to learn more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to produce more, or not. So that's level number one. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges you based on your God-given kochos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave. What about the second level? Comes the Reish Lakish, and he says, no, it's not just that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging you like sheep, but rather HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging you like people who go up a mountain. What does it mean? People go up a mountain in a single line. What does that mean? So here, some of the Mefarshim explain that this means luck, right? When you get to the mountain, why are you in front of me? We're both going to, let's say, Meron, right? And it has a very narrow path. You can only have one car drive up at a time. Why are you before me? Because you got lucky. You went first. Something spilled in my house. I had to clean it up, and now I'm stuck. I missed the thing, right? Sometimes you're driving. Right? This happened to me once or twice, where you're driving in New York. It happened. You're driving, and you see you're on the West Side Highway, and you see a bumper fender bender, right? Like it just happened right next to you. And what do you say? Whoa, Baruch Hashem. Why? Because you just drove by, and you know that in literally 2 minutes, it's a 2-hour delay, right? It's literally like 2-hour traffic all the way back to Brooklyn. Yeah, just because of this small little fender. So what made it? Why were you able to go ahead? You got lucky. Right? You got lucky. So the second thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges you on is your God-given traits. Of course, He judges you on, because that He gave you. But what about the luck? What about the things that it's not God? It's not like this is what embedded in your DNA. It's something that happened in the middle of your life. They're like, oh wow, this happened to me. I got lucky. I got some extra money somehow from a business deal that I didn't even know was going to happen. Or I met this person. What did you do with that interaction that you randomly met a person? Did you use that for something else? Did you use the luck that you had to help Am Yisrael or not? That's the second level. I remember I was in high school, and a friend of mine, his father took us skiing, and we had a connecting flight in Reno. You know where Reno is? Reno is in Nevada, right? So in Nevada, you're allowed to gamble, right? Gambling is, I think, all the other states you're not allowed to gamble unless it's like an Indian enclave or something. But in Nevada, the whole state, you're allowed to gamble. So we land over the plane, we had a few hours. He says, let me show you why you should never gamble. Because, right? So he takes us to a casino, okay? And he goes to a blackjack table, says, it takes out $100. He says, look, I'm going to put this $100 on black 4, right? He says, the chances of anything falling on this is like, I don't know, 1 in 30, whatever. It pays out like 30 times or 35 times, I don't remember exactly, on roulette. He says, look how quickly I'm going to lose $100. And you'll know from this that I worked hard for these $100. Mamish, I worked hard for $100 and I had to take it. I just want to teach you a lesson that you should never gamble because you'll see how quick you lose it. He puts it on for, and obviously this guy's mazel, what happened? He won. And it paid like ding, 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 it pays out like 35 times. He walked out with like $3,500, right? But then he said, you know what? I'm going to give it to tzedakah, right? Because I was planning on losing it. But I'm going to give it to tzedakah. So for me, that was a much more powerful lesson than not gambling. Right, meaning not gambling, of course, is a good lesson, and you should stick to it. But the other lesson was HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you some unexpected luck, right? You were doing the opposite. You were going in to lose $100, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, I'm gonna make sure you make $3,500 or whatever it is, that matter as much as it pays out. What are you gonna do with that luck? Are you gonna take it and use it for good, or are you gonna say, oh, great, I got lucky? So the second level that what the Gemara is teaching us is not only is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu judging you on your God-given DNA that is embedded in you, but also on the luck that happens throughout your life. And then the last one, the third thing, that the third Amor explains is, what does it mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges each individual like soldiers? What does it mean like soldiers? Soldiers are very unique. Why are soldiers very unique? Because a soldier on day one and a soldier at the end of training, what are they? Two completely different individuals. On day one, you come in, you know nothing. A lot of them are not in shape. You don't know how to use the gun. You don't know how to do anything. How do you come out? 4 years later, you're the most sophisticated, excellent. You can sneak into Iran, steal the files, plant bombs, come in, come out. You can do like 1.5 million things. 2 years ago, you didn't know anything, right? 2 years ago, you couldn't. But now, you know how to get into Iran and do a whole to-do. What does soldier represent? A soldier represent is that through your hard work, you acquired new traits and new talents, right? You were born. You didn't know how to read. You didn't know how to, whatever job it is that you have, you didn't know how to do what you're doing now. But throughout your life, you trained yourself in a certain way and you mastered a certain trait. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, these aren't your God, it's not your wisdom, it's not your beauty, it's not your God-given strength, it's not like your actual physical traits, but it's traits that it's the next step, meaning it's you taking all the kelim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you and making even better. It's you acquiring traits throughout your life. A soldier represents someone who acquired traits throughout his life, and now the question HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking you, I am going to judge you also based on the traits that it was your hard work, right? You acquired these amazing traits, but how are you using them? Are you using them for the good, or are you using them for the bad? So that's the Gemara, and this is the idea that I wanted to show. Let's summarize everything from the get-go, the whole shiur in 30 seconds. You ready? Here we go. We started off. We said, what does it mean? Kikar v'lecha adavar. Tshuva is very close. It's so tough. It's so difficult. It's so hard, right? So we said it's not that it's whether the Torah isn't telling you whether it's easy or not easy, but rather what's the Torah telling you? That it's up to you, right? Like Rav Elazar ben Duda, you can blame the whole world and you'll be right, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to change. Now, that was the first step. That's what it means. Kikar v'lecha tshuva is up to you. But now when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging us, the whole story with the Netaneh Tokef and Rav Amnon from Megenza, and that he says kivnei maron, that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges each individual. There's 3 different levels of judgment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging each individual. He's saying, A, you're judged on your God-given traits. That's the sheep. B, you're judged on your luck. You want something that's like the people that, why is he in front of me in line? Because he showed up first. And then lastly, you're judged on the traits that you acquired throughout your life. That because Baruch was saying, great, you became an accountant. You weren't born an accountant. Are you helping this chesed organization that is now starting off and they need some accounting business? Wonderful. You're using your traits to help other people in Am Yisrael. So this is the idea of in the parsha, and this is the idea of tshuva. Tshuva is kara v'lecha. It's close to you. It's only you who can do it. And embrace it. Embrace it because it's very exciting. It's very exciting that you are able to be the person who's in charge of your destiny. And Bezat Hashem, we should have a Shana Tova Mituka. Everyone should have a K'tiva v'Chatima Tova, a year of health and happiness and bracha and simcha and atzlacha. And Hashem should help you all. Beruchnius v'gashmius. And we should be zochet to be Mekabel Mashiach Tzidkenu. B'mira b'yameinu.